All right. Hello, everyone. We're going to be beginning in a couple minutes here. Thanks for joining so far. But we're going to hold on and let everybody join with their lunches, leftover pizza, turkey sandwiches, etc. And then we'll get started in a couple minutes. All right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today during your lunch break or after your lunch break if you're on the East Coast. I am very excited to be talking with you all today about customer journeys powered by the Data Cloud and generative AI. And I am extremely lucky today because we have a fantastic guest that's going to be walking through our story together. Yasmeen Ahmad, the managing director of product at Google Cloud. Now, Yasmeen focuses on data and analytics and also generative AI, which is the topic du jour of the moment right now. So I'm going to leave time at the end for folks to ask questions about Google's vision for AI as well as the data and analytics stack. But first, we're going to be going through how to actually leverage the data cloud and journeys in your business. So with Yasmeen, Yasmeen has a background, and I actually didn't know this, Yasmeen. You have a PhD in gene expression and regulation. And then Yasmeen was a SVP at Teradata in product, and now is leading product efforts on the data and analytics side at Google Cloud. So welcome, Yasmeen. Thank you for joining us. And Yasmeen, I know you also did a presentation last week with some of the announcements going on around generative AI with Google.
Yeah, thanks, Chris, for the introduction. And I'm super excited to be here with the GrowthLoop team today to talk about some of the amazing things that generative AI is letting us do in the marketing space. Really, I think from our conversations, Chris, generative AI has a transformational impact potential for marketing, and especially marketing across channels to millions of customers and audiences out there. So yeah, very excited. I think just reflecting also on last week, generative AI has been that hot topic that is taking over the world, and we're excited about what's happening at Google. You know, we're really at the heart of this whole movement and trend. We're building these planet scale large language models, and very much in my space, we're focused on integrating all of that AI into the data and analytics cloud. So how do we bring that to our customers? And I think one way we do that is through great partnerships, and GrowthLoop is one of those partnerships where we can really bring the power of the data and now AI cloud to customers out there.
Yeah, thank you, Yasmeen. And I feel like you and I have talked a lot about this, and we'll go further into it today, but the data cloud already started to bring scalability and security to analytics overall. And now folks are starting to say, well, can I leverage the AI stack as well to power my analytics and insights, but now can I actually activate it? So it's interesting is the world was almost waiting for the cloud AI to be built on the data cloud infrastructure that's already been built out. So excited to chat about this today. As quick way of introduction to folks, I'm the co-founder and CEO of GrowthLoop. I lead product here at the company. Now, my description is much shorter because I'm much less illustrious. So we're very lucky to have Yasmeen today. She's the one you're going to be wanting to pick her brain on after this ends. So just quickly piecing this together, what are we going to be talking about today? We're going to be talking about how the data cloud has obviously brought analytics together for many organizations. And most people's exposure to the data cloud today is through their BI tools. They're using it in Looker to visualize insights about their business, right? They're using it to run scalable queries and do machine learning predictive models about which customers are going to churn or what they're likely to buy next. What people don't typically think about the data cloud and now the AI cloud built on top of it is, how do I make this actionable in my business? How do I make it influence the customer experience? And so here at GrowthLoop, that's our specialty. We focus on how do you leverage the power of this data cloud as well as the AI cloud and actually make it useful for all the touch points that you have with your customers so you can drive growth. So you see here Maestro, which is our journey builder, which is built directly on BigQuery, Google's data cloud and AI cloud. And so the magic that we were trying to create here is, how do we go from use cases and driving growth and link that to the data stack? And now with the power of BigQuery's data cloud, we can do just that. So you can see this lovely little animation of the cloud coming in. Beautiful. All right, so with this, I want to kind of show how this, what was the genesis of this, right? When I was just starting to speak, I was talking about how companies, your exposure is likely through Looker, a BI tool, and the BigQuery analytics stack. But how does that build out and then start to make sense to use for journeys? So Yasmeen, I wanted to have you walk through this since you see it with many different customers.
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. So what we see is lots of our customers, we've got thousands of customers who use BigQuery every day, and they really brought lots of enterprise data to BigQuery. And that includes lots of first-party data about customers, their transactions, what those customers are doing in the business, if they're visiting the website, their digital channels, their offline channels. And so BigQuery is that gold mine of enterprise data that you want to activate. And typically in the marketing space, as we speak to CMOs and head of marketing, we see that what activating that gold mine looks like is actually being able to take that data and leverage that data to go target people, individuals, consumers, audiences across a whole range of different endpoints, channels. And so at Google, I think we're focused on also faster time to value. how do we get customers who are using BigQuery or adopting our BigQuery data platform, how do we enable them to take all of that rich data and activate it across these many different channels that are out there? If you're a marketeer, you've got a numerous set of channels that you've got customers traversing across. And this is really, I think, where, Chris, the partnership with GrowthLoop started, because we had this gap between the data that was a gold mine, but a gold mine that's not activated is not very valuable, and all of these channels that our marketeers wanted to reach. So GrowthLoop really provides that no-code experience or low-code experience so that the actual marketeer can activate that data in BigQuery. They can build audiences, they can create different segments, they can assign different marketing campaigns to those segments, and then they can roll out those campaigns across multiple channels. And the reason why we did the partnership with GrowthLoop was just the power of the platform. We wanted to reach those marketeers, and if you're familiar with BigQuery, that means using SQL and coding, whereas marketeers don't have those skills necessarily. So GrowthLoop really gave us that partner that provided the UI experience, but now with your integrations with our generative AI capabilities, it's even more seamless. You know, you can ask for a certain type of segment, and the system understands it and builds that audience. So as we see customers using GrowthLoop to, and we've already got some customers doing this today, using GrowthLoop to set up those audiences and to activate those campaigns across channels. I think the other powerful thing is it's not just one channel or one campaign at a time. It's that ability to have multi-channel journeys. And especially with the enterprises that we work with, they want those multi-channel touch points where they can interact with the customer and take them on a journey across those channels, whether it's sales channels or service channels, enabling multiple touch points with a single customer and a story or an ongoing relationship. And I think what's really powerful with the solution that we have here is it's not just activating those campaigns. We can collect all of the data about how a campaign performs, and is it connecting with customers. We can do A/B testing of different analytics models or campaign versions, and all of that data gets written back into BigQuery. So you can get this really good feedback loop where you're deploying these campaigns, you're doing the A/B testing, and then you're getting that rich data back, that feedback loop into BigQuery, so that you can understand measurement and performance and ROI on top of those campaigns.
And I think you hit the nail on the head with there's a gold mine being created in the data cloud and AI cloud right now of the intelligence folks have about their customers. And I was actually in the shoes of a marketeer before we started GrowthLoop. I was in those shoes of, wow, I wish I could get access to that gold mine so I could change the way I'm communicating with my customers or trying to win back churn customers. But the answer was I couldn't, or I needed to write SQL, or I needed to get an analyst to pull the file for me. Then I needed to get to measure the campaign. And so my experience as a marketeer was basically I was a head with no hands, is what I like to say. I had a lot of ideas, but I had no hands to implement them. So I actually ended up learning SQL and doing it the brute force way. And I think that's the power of what we're trying to do is open up the gold mine that is in the data cloud and AI cloud, but for business users, and actually help them influence the customer experience faster. So the other key piece of this is folks always wonder, you know, is this just a technology discussion, right? You have data cloud and analytics, you have generative AI, now you have a low code interface. And then I talk to a CMO and they're like, you know, what did you just say? You know, what does all that mean? And so bringing this home, I think it's important to talk about use cases. And a lot of the times I see GrowthLoop, and our job is to understand the use cases in each vertical better than anybody else, as well as you understand them as a marketer in those industries. That's our job, because we need to do an assessment of what's in the gold mine and how do you string that to value. So typically what we see is we've actually seen some themes develop around what are the use cases of leveraging the gold mine of the data cloud and AI cloud for business use cases. And it typically starts with a starter product each industry is trying to get somebody with an initial hook to get their information and try to get them understanding what your business does and even trialing a product. They then try to get you to become a multi-product customer. So try an additional product on top of that to increase your loyalty. They then want you to become a high lifetime value loyal customer, where you're actually using multiple products, but also the premium tiers of those products. And then unfortunately, sometimes you forget who the company is and you get lost, and they have to win you back with a new product or new features or enhancements. And across those 4 buckets, if you go by industry, actually we see a lot of use cases falling directly within these 4 themes. And so for financial services, for instance, you'll see folks trying to acquire people to get on checking accounts. That's the starter product. If you've ever seen from Chase or from another financial services bank, hey, I'd like you to get on this free checking account. Well, the reason that's free is that eventually they want you to become a multi-product customer in financial services, savings, certificates of deposit, and then high lifetime value to opening credit cards, a mortgage, car loan, of course. Then they try to win you back with new rates. You guys have all gotten those direct mail pieces where it's promising a new interest rate. Media and entertainment, very similar. So if you're in the sports and media and entertainment space, usually folks, they'll have the widest necks of getting us all to buy jerseys or hats or some type of merchandise to get us in the orbit of the team. I know I am a fan of the White Sox as well as Chicago Bulls, Boston Red Sox. So I have several jerseys. They then try to get you to buy your first tickets, right? Get you to buy a ticket for you and your family, then get you to buy ticket packages, and then providing you with package offers if they've actually lost you. Retail, very similar. You have web purchases first. It's hard to get you to download a mobile app, but maybe they can get you to do a web purchase when you're not logged in. They then try to get you to do a logged in purchase and get it to a second category. Go Bulls, absolutely. And then try to make you a more frequent purchaser or get you to purchase in premium categories on higher ticket items in retail. And then finally, this even extends to B2B SaaS. And so this is software as a service when you're selling to other companies. Oftentimes you'll see companies offering free trials to get you in the door. They'll have a starter tier. They'll have a product suite of add-ons to get you to become a multi-product customer. They'll try to get you to the enterprise tier as your business grows. And of course, they'll try to win you back as well if you leave with a different type of offer. And so our job here is to try to tie the journey making capability to these use cases and the value. So when we're talking to folks in the marketing teams and doing our workshops, it's about what is the data cloud and Gen AI? What is the gold mine? And how does it activate one of these use cases? How is it going to help you drive more savings accounts? How is it going to help you drive more ticket packages or enterprise tier usage on your SaaS product? And those are the types of questions that you need to answer when you're implementing a system like this on top of your data cloud. So quickly, I just want to walk through an example before we get into an actual product demo around what this looks like for a specific use case. So I'm going to show you the account-based marketing. So this is imagine you're a software company selling to other businesses. How are you going to orchestrate your tools or your communication channels to try to convert somebody from being a prospect to a free tier or a first tier customer? And so usually what folks start with is upper funnel. They'll start actually targeting key account lists. They'll have a set of 10,000 or 50,000 accounts that they want to target. They'll actually do asset syndication on display networks. They'll target them on Google Ads, all of the titles that they can within those companies. And then they'll target them on LinkedIn ads. The next step is getting them to come into landing pages, typically by vertical. So you usually have 2 to 3 landing pages, and to try to get them to sign up and express interest. If you can get them to sign up and express interest, you want to kick off an email nurture sequence. That's going to be through a tool like Marketo, or we often see it through Braze or Salesforce Marketing Cloud. So now you've gone from paid media to Marketing Cloud. Those nurture sequences often lead to a webinar program on something like LinkedIn Live or Citrix or a different platform for events. And then if they can get you to attend, they often route you to a CRM system like Dynamics or Salesforce as an opportunity for their sales team to actually have a conversation. And so this journey, if you see, we went from paid media to email nurture to CRM. The question is, how do you actually navigate that leveraging the data cloud and generative AI? That's actually kind of a complicated story, and we're trying to make that simpler. And so some of the key challenges that marketers are facing today, and I know, Yasmeen, you've seen a bunch of organizations be like, basically they have this vision of using the data cloud for these use cases, but they struggle along this path. And so some of the things I've seen is, one is the data is typically siloed in the marketing tools themselves. So they'll only have a limited representation of the customer. So it's very difficult to run campaigns. So they'll end up sending files from a BigQuery or having to get data from a BigQuery to those marketing tools because they don't have the data they need in the tool to launch a target or campaign. The marketing tools themselves don't talk to each other. It'd be nice if they all communicated very well together, but if you've ever tried to mix paid media, CRM, and an email nurturing tool, you know what I'm talking about. We don't need to go in there. It becomes way too much manual work. I used to picture myself as a marketer as somebody with a roll of duct tape facing a large dam, and there was holes being poked through it, and I just needed to put as much tape up as I possibly could. That was me trying to run a journey. Yes, CSV files everywhere. And then marketers start, when you're in that position as a marketer, you go into survival mode. You just start focusing on one channel. You give up on the journey, and you actually just say, you know what, I run email campaigns. Nobody talk to me. All I'm going to do is run my Marketo email campaigns, and I'm going to send as much email to these people as possible, and we'll hope it works out, because I can't even fathom my job if I have to go outside of that. All right. So what do we do about it? That's the challenge. So we have a gold mine. It's hard. We have use cases. It's really hard to use. So that's our job, and that's why we've partnered with Google Cloud and BigQuery, is to start to transform poor marketers like myself from project managers with duct tape in their hands and no hope of holding back the dam into agile experimenters. So what we want people to do is actually be able to target, activate journeys, and measure the outcomes. And that's what we internally call the growth loop. But instead of that taking months for every experiment you run, from targeting to activating a journey across channels to measuring, it should happen in days. And you should be able to run 10x the amount of experiments you want to run, because that's how you grow. You grow through a culture of experimentation. You don't grow by marketers holding duct tape and trying to close up dams for their email channel. So we just like to, Yasmeen, I know we wanted to talk through kind of like a before and after, almost state of the organization, right? So if we're trying to transform an organization and actually leverage BigQuery and the gold mine of the data cloud and AI, how do we actually do that? And I think it typically starts with, how do they even create a segmentation of their customers? So I know you see a lot of customers doing this in BigQuery and Looker today. And typically, you know, I'm guessing this mostly sits in the analytics team's domain, or who do you typically see doing this segmentation?
Yeah, and back to, you know, putting the power in the hands of the marketeer. Today, if you want to get any more sophisticated with segments, you're typically relying on the analytics team, and that's what we see. You know, the analytics teams, the data science teams have to step in to help create segments. And then it's not just the creation of the segments, Chris. You know, it's how do you manage all of these segments and audiences that you're creating, and is one audience better than the audience you created last week? And we know that consumers are changing all the time. The data is changing all the time, right? It's, you might have had a high spender one week, and over time there's different things happening with those consumers, and their profiles are evolving. So being able to really keep up with the speed of change and be relevant to your audience today means being much more near real time and having audiences that evolve over time. And that's the hard piece. It's setting up one audience is fine, but it's how do you have a dynamic set of audiences that are, really reflect the changing customer base.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, because a lot of times I'll talk to folks is the time they have their eyes light up is when you talk about, okay, let's give the power to the marketers so they don't need to know SQL and they can generate audiences that change over time. Folks say, well, can't my analyst team just write a SQL query, or can I teach my marketing team SQL? And the answer is, yeah, if you want to run 3 experiments a quarter like you are today, that's completely possible. You can get them in boot camps, teach them SQL, and keep sending CSVs back and forth. if you want to 10x how you're growing and actually leverage the data cloud to its maximum, you're letting all that gold just sit there, and you're letting your marketers just hunt and peck with analysts with random SQL queries with very little visibility. I actually think this is where Looker got folks a long way of the ways there of visualizing this data in the data cloud for folks for the first time and giving that interface between analytics and business teams. So at least now with Looker, they can have a conversation, whereas before they'd be sitting in a room looking at a marketing brief and an analyst would be describing a BigQuery schema to them. But Looker's kind of been that layer to at least start some of the communication between the orgs.
Yeah, that kind of visualization, that dashboard to create like some level of data democratization. And I wanted to pick up a point also, Chris, on your CSV files. Here's the thing with, especially in the marketing domain, you've got consumer information, you've got PII data, and it's, the ability to just download files and share has been done in the past, but we see a lot more concern also about data sharing and data security and making sure that data is treated as an asset and privacy concerns, security concerns are met. So that's another challenge we definitely see across marketing teams sharing those CSV files.
Yeah, CSVs on local computers isn't a great way to handle PII. And I think today, folks have invested all of this time and money into building a great data cloud because of security and privacy and analytics. But for the security side, oftentimes as soon as it gets over to marketing, they don't take advantage of any of the security. It just, data starts flowing out. And so I think kind of the after approach here is, this is really where GrowthLoop comes into play, is we want to open this up to marketers. So how do you do that? In our case, we're giving them a visual audience builder. So they don't need to know SQL. They can see the BigQuery, all of the data that they have in BigQuery on the customers. And they can actually leverage the scalability of BigQuery by creating customer segments and then actually seeing a live report on the right-hand side. So one of the most powerful things is that feedback loop. Simply a marketer being able to pull an audience. In my case, if I could have pulled an audience and seen a report about who I was targeting from the power of the data cloud when I was a marketer, I might still be a marketer because I would have been able to put some of the ideas into action. And so the great thing about this is you're already using BigQuery for your analytics stack. Now all you're doing is exposing that to the other 80% of your organization that are business users so they can leverage it. But now they can leverage it in a secure way and actually, without getting a CSV of the customer data, actually investigate it and create that customer segmentation. So next up, I know this is the fun topic before and after, is generative AI. So, we've been talking about data cloud, obviously, and that is a gold mine. The next gold mine that everybody's excited about, but nobody actually knows how it's going to be useful to business use cases yet, but are starting to get some great ideas, is, of course, generative AI. And so today, really, this isn't really possible. You're really having teams just start to experiment with how they use generative AI internally. They're starting to think through, how do I use this in creative? Can I use it to generate subject lines for my emails? But if you look at underlying all the excitement, I think the reason folks are so excited is, if BigQuery is the center of your analytics stack and you have all this customer information there, that's probably a great place to use generative AI to either generate personalized creatives or to decide how you segment those customers for certain goals you have in mind. And so just one thing I wanted to show here was we really recently released Marv, which is based on the Palm Vertex AI, Palm 2 large language model. So thank you, Yasmeen. Stand on the shoulder of giants, I suppose here. But we've talked a lot about this. Is marketers even sometimes, let's say I give you a low code interface and you're a marketer and you start clicking through it, you may not know what certain fields are named. Right? You may not know the description on the field that the analytics team gave. That might not make sense to a business user. And so when you look at a marketing brief, oftentimes marketers just describe their target audience in plain English and say, can you give me a draft audience? But they're talking to their analyst team. And so I think Palm and Vertex AI, one of the many things that it's going to enable is this is essentially translating plain English or any language that you speak into an audience, leveraging the power of BigQuery. And so I thought this was an interesting way of combining generative AI with the data cloud for segmentation. But Yasmeen, I know you're seeing Marv, but also other innovations as well.
Yeah, and I think, Chris, this is a perfect example of where generative AI has it's a perfect use case for generative AI, and a use case where generative AI can really have a big impact. And the impact we see here is efficiency and productivity of teams. You know, that marketeer, rather than having to struggle with fields and data items, they'll get there. They'll create those audiences. They'll work through the forms. But generative AI with the speech prompts really lets us as humans operate in the language we know best, which is speech. Ask for the type of audience you want, and get going much faster. So yes, you might tweak the audience afterwards, but really the speech prompt here with generative AI lets you get to that first audience really quickly. And so productivity, efficiency gain for efforts that were previously very human intensive is where we're seeing a lot of generative AI use cases come about. And all of Google's large language models, the planet scale language models that we're training, it's amazing actually the levels of accuracy that you're getting from these models today.
Yeah, and we actually I know Google just released the Cody model as well. So we've been adopting that as well as now there's specialized LLMs, not only Palm, but also smaller models that are based for code search or code creation, for image generation, for even audio. And so we're leveraging one flavor of it, which is very exciting. But there's going to be thousands of others. And I think one thing I wanted to point out here is I think the big challenge in marketing technology that I've seen is, because I'm kind of coming from the business side and then became more technical over time. And the issue I've seen with marketing technology is I often see marketing technology teams complain that they can't open up the power of the tools that they use to the business teams because they're too technical. The tools are too technical. And what that means is, like, everybody's built the gold mine in the data cloud, but they layer all this software as a service on top in order to hopefully make it more actionable for their business. But then in actuality, they end up where marketers or business teams don't like to use them because they're like, well, you know, that sounds like I'm going to have to go get training to even figure out how to do that. And I actually think generative AI, the place where it fits is it's going to transform that for marketing technology. Now, a lot of these services, and we're even viewing it this way at GrowthLoop, we allow you to build audiences, customer segmentation, and then customer journeys. Well, how do I make that easier for a business team to leverage their BigQuery data cloud? The way you do it is leveraging generative AI and smart features like Marv. So there's going to be a ton more to come here. And Yasmeen, we're excited to partner with your team to bring it to the fore.
We're super excited to partner with you too, Chris.
So next step, let's say we have our customer segments. This is where I like the rat maze. This is the before. So this speaks to, Yasmeen, your note on CSVs, right? If you're concerned about PII, this is actually where the big problem comes into play is, hey, I want to get these files over to my marketing channels to actually run, let's just say a Braze email campaign or a Marketo email campaign. How do you go about that? And if you're ever hearing the keywords in your organization of CSVs, SFTPs, and manual loads, or I need to go load that, it's happening. You have the maze going on. And so what we're trying to solve for there is very simply, you should be connecting through the APIs and all automated. There shouldn't be CSVs, there shouldn't be SFTPs, and there shouldn't be manual uploads. You should be going straight from BigQuery. Your data should stay in BigQuery and secure until the minute it needs to go to the Google Ads API or the minute it needs to go to the Braze API. It shouldn't be leaving a minute sooner, and it shouldn't be leaving in a CSV. And so the vision here is to leverage if you're going to leverage the power of the analytics stack, then integrate directly programmatically with APIs. And Yasmeen, this is kind of what you spoke about, is you can do this for one segment. Then when you start getting into additional segments and they're actually changing all the time, you need those to be kept in sync, and you can't be manually intervening each time to actually maintain that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think this is where sometimes the overhead or like the technical debt of trying to manage, um, whether it's audiences, targeting the segments, getting across channels, that's what slows teams down, because it's the first campaign is easy to run. The first campaign you can get an analyst on board to support with, but it's being able to do that at scale. And I'm sure, Chris, you've got better stats than I do, but as enterprises do look to do this at scale, it's not one campaign running anymore, and it's not one channel anymore. It's many campaigns across multiple channels, and trying to keep just all of that in sync is hard.
Yeah, and typically there's an upper threshold. Like I'll see companies literally stop at 5 to 10 because they just can't handle more in the way they're currently running their processes. And so what I usually say to folks is, that makes your marketers' jobs very unsatisfactory because they have a lot of ideas of how they want to experiment on the customer lifecycle to drive growth. And you're telling them they can only do 5 to 10 of them at any given time. So how long is it going to take your organization to get to the right answer? The answer is sometimes you never get to it, right? If you're a startup, you just don't have the time. If you're an enterprise, you have more time, but you're going to be passed by your competitors because they're experimenting faster. So it's something you actually can't see when you're on the ground because you say, we're working really hard though. And it seems like we're running 5 to 10. And it's like, yeah, but you could be running 50 to 100 and your competitor might be. So you should start making more use of your data cloud. Okay, so the final steps, I like this one. So if you actually wanted to run a cross-channel journey, what is it like now? So, I showed that example of going from a account-based marketing campaign of paid media to email nurture to your CRM system. For those of you on the call, if any of you have tried to create one of those account-based marketing flows, I'm sure you have a lot of CSVs flying around and a lot of meetings and conversations between the channel owners, each of the marketers, to try to get their lists and then pump them into your CRM. So the answer is good luck. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to piece all that together and then put the analytics on top of it. And so that's where we wanted to head next in bringing value, because a lot of our customers they don't think about creating a single audience segment. They actually think about programs. So they want to onboard customers, they want to cross-sell customers, upsell them to premium tiers, and they want to win them back. And they have programs built around those, but typically they're single channel, they're not multi-channel. And so the idea here with Maestro and Journeys is to actually write directly on top of BigQuery. Can you orchestrate a journey across the marketing channels you use today? So like that account-based marketing example I gave, where it went from Google Ads to Marketo Nurture to Salesforce CRM. What if I already use those tools and I don't want to change out any of my marketing and sales tools that I use today? How do I add journeys from the data cloud to those? So this is a composable architecture that allows you to say, hey, why don't you just add the journey capability into your current marketing tool set and start leveraging the power of your BigQuery data cloud and the richness of the customer data there to orchestrate those journeys. So this is one it's almost interesting because I see very few companies getting there unless they're leveraging this type of architecture. Otherwise, they're really in that CSV land of trying to orchestrate campaigns between channel owners overall. And Yasmeen, I know you've seen this at larger organizations. Today, for folks trying to do this across their marketing tools, have you seen any good examples of folks able to do this on the data stack or without?
Yeah, I laugh because it's near impossible at times. So the vision, actually, Chris, I've heard the vision for almost a decade now, right? The vision of a multi-channel orchestrated amazing journey has been there, and many large organizations have aspired to the vision of, can I have this truly orchestrated journey? So actually it's not just I am blasting campaigns across multiple channels. It's each channel knows about what potentially came before. And that's the piece that I think has been hard to near impossible. It's, do we have many customers who are doing campaigns across channels? Yes. But that ability to have a memory of what's happened in the channel before, and how can we actually have a really coordinated journey where you're not just showing the customer the same advert across 3 different spaces. That's really been hard for marketeers to unlock. And I would say, even though, like, actually it's been doable because all of the technology pieces were there, again, it's that ability for a marketeer to set it up and to orchestrate it versus having to have somebody who codes a whole process behind the scenes. So I think what was impressive to me when I first saw Maestro was just how simple and easy, as you're seeing in the video right now, it was for a marketeer to create those connections, to create like different, what I call decisioning trees as a journey flows through. And I think that experience has been missing, even though all of the technology components have been available probably for a long time.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest component here is how do you make the data cloud and cloud AI easy for business users to actually see their ideas actioned. And the faster you do that, a lot of this is going to be UI, and I think a lot of it's going to be the innovations that your team's making in generative AI that tools like ours leverage to try to make these things more useful to those business users. And we'll just go to the final step here is, we said target and segment your customers smarter, activate customer journeys faster, and then third, measure outcomes. So none of this stuff matters. Like, let's say I can go from 5 to 50 experiments a quarter. Question is, who cares? Like, it doesn't matter. You're not going to get a gold medal from the CMO at your company by saying, hey, I ran 10x the experiments. And they're going to be like, that sounds great. Thanks for working very hard at this company. Now tell me the KPI. What did you do? What did you impact on the business? Did you get us more savings account? Did you win back more customers? Did you cross-sell more customers on a new product? That's the questions you're going to get back. And that's the questions I got. My job was to increase 182 lifetime value of Google AdWords customers. And at the end of the day, if I ran 50 programs or 5, didn't matter to my boss. They just wanted to know what the LTV number was. So how do you measure that? This is another arduous process where you can see on the before, there's a lot of SQL. And actually, typically the way this plays out is you have to ask an analyst before you run your campaign as a marketer, hey, I'd really love to run an experiment for one of my few campaigns that you're going to let me run this quarter. And I want you to split it into a treatment and control group randomly. And then afterwards, I want you to measure, could you measure revenue between the two groups and tell me whether it's statistically significant? So you have about 3 meetings talking through the experiment setup. Then you have 3 more meetings analyzing the result a month later. And that process can't happen if you're looking to 10x the way you experiment. So what we're able to do here is it shows a treatment and control group being set up directly on BigQuery automatically for you. So we have default settings so the marketer can just set it and forget it. And these treatment and control groups will automatically be maintained in BigQuery. And then even better yet, you can actually measure specific metrics in BigQuery based on those treatment and control groups. So if BigQuery is the richest source of data, it is a gold mine showing you logins, add to carts, revenue, transactions about your customers. It's a great place to also visualize, well, did my experiment work? So if I can run 50 experiments and I can automatically see the uplift that I'm driving, it becomes fairly easy to start growing your business much faster than you were before. All right.
And Chris, I would just say that I think this is the part which is often really hard. I come from a data analytics background, and having worked with lots of organizations on use cases and doing new marketing use cases, proving the ROI is one of the critical things, is being able to measure, being able to see and A/B test different approaches. So as we also look at customers who are using the data cloud, more customers beginning to use also more sophisticated analytics models, whether it's to do segmentation or build propensity models in the engine, so a propensity to buy. And what this essentially measurement feedback loop lets you do is see which of those analytics models, propensity models, churn models, etc., are actually working. And so you get the end-to-end loop. I think too often, having run data science teams, the data science teams would just measure the effectiveness of a model. This actually lets you operationalize and get true real world feedback on how the end-to-end data and analytics and models and segments are performing.
Yeah, I mean, you get to go from what is the impact of this machine learning model on the business? You get all the way to revenue, which is pretty special that you can tie that together. I think you did touch on it. Another point too is I actually see a lot of CMOs and VPs of marketing making the decisions on where they spend. So which channel are they going to invest more into? They're making that on the data cloud. They're making that in BigQuery. That's where their marketing analytics team is. they're not making it in end platforms because they don't trust them. They trust BigQuery and their analytics team to make those calls. And so if you're going to be orchestrating your journeys, the beauty is we write that data back to BigQuery. So that same team that the CMO trusts to visualize this uplift can use their analytics team to do that in Looker or another BI solution to go even deeper than what we're showing here to make those decisions. So it's all connected in that full loop.
I think that's a really good point, Chris, because I hear that so much from marketing functions and so on. CMOs want to have the visibility of their data. It's every single channel will tell you that they are performing the best, that the returns are amazing. And so really being able to have that, I remember just doing so many conversations around marketing attribution models. And why did they exist? Because every channel tells you that their performance is, you're double counting performance everywhere. If you counted up how much each channel thinks it's returning, you're at 200 or 300% versus 2x or 3x of what you've actually made. So getting ownership of the data, having the ability to run your own analytics, your own measurement, your own reporting, that's a powerful use case we see for BigQuery. That's why a lot of this data is being brought back into BigQuery so that there's more control and the ability to have a more measured third-party view on all of these different agencies or channel costs.
Yeah, I always have this joke in mind where a CEO has to give an earnings report and he says, well, we missed by 10% on our revenue targets, but our marketing attribution says we exceeded them by 200%. So we got that going for us.
Yeah.
So there should be a footer on some of the 10Ks. All right, so we're going to summarize this and then talk about a quick customer story and then next steps and get to questions here. So quickly, since y'all have heard the 3 steps, you're like, Chris, I get it. It's a growth loop. Target smarter, activate journeys, measure. Got it. Okay. Well, I'm just going to say it 7 more times, I promise. So first is, of course, targeting smarter, leveraging the power of BigQuery for your customer segmentation. The second step in your growth loop is orchestrating those customer journeys faster across the current marketing tools that you use today, right? So that's key. You don't have to change anything out from that side. And then third, measure the outcomes on the analytics stack that CMOs actually trust, which is BigQuery and their analytics team. And fourth, you're actually going to stay secure. So there's no CSV sharing, and there's actually data governance baked in. It's what you went to BigQuery for. And if you get these 4 steps right, this is when you go from 5 to 50 experiments and you actually know what's working and you double down and repeat. And that's how you accelerate your growth loop with the Data Cloud and BigQuery and GrowthLoop. So I'm going to quickly show a customer story and talk next steps. So I wanted to show you this here. So this is an actual shared customer. We just did a blog post about with Yasmeen's team. Mercari, they're a mobile peer-to-peer marketplace with millions of users here in the US and Japan. And they're a large Google Cloud customer today that leverages Google Cloud as their trusted analytics stack for BigQuery as well as Looker to visualize their data about their business. And so what we were able to do with Mercari was actually start to do exactly the use cases that I laid out in those first slides, which was first was cross-sell. How do you go from first purchase to second purchase? That was a key loyalty indicator to get to a second purchase, right? Then they're going to be loyal to the platform. So what do you cross-sell those users for? Do you do it on Braze? Do you do it on Google Ads? We were able to create segmentation and journeys to activate those. And then, of course, preempting churn. So how do you keep your customers? If you're predicting somebody's going to leave your platform, how do you get in front of them and actually make sure they're educated about the platform or trying to buy or sell in a new category within Mercari? And so overall, we saw a huge lift in terms of revenue. And this is where it gets to, is we ran over 100 experiments with the Mercari team. And they have an amazing team over there at Mercari on the marketing and data side. That's what made this possible and scaled it so quickly. And we were able to get to over $18 million in revenue lift, verified in test between treatment and control on BigQuery itself. And so I know, Yasmeen, there's a few other customer stories we've had together as well, where you've seen the analytics stack and marketing start to come together.
Yeah, Chris, and it's been super exciting to have some more joint customers also with GrowthLoop. So Mercari is just one of those customers that is benefiting from this bigger solution now. We've seen the Boston Red Sox, the Golden State Warriors, other customers who are very much seeing the benefit of this joint Google BigQuery plus GrowthLoop end-to-end solution. And actually, one of the things I've been amazed by is how quickly some of these customers have been able to get going. So, Chris, I think in our discussions we spoke about, it's a couple of days even for especially customers who've already got the BigQuery platform with their data there to get going and actually do their first audience and first campaign.
Yeah, that's actually great segue to the getting started side. So just as you said,
I just wanted to add, before you move forward, Google is also a user of GrowthLoop. So one of the reasons I was first introduced to GrowthLoop was we as a business, Google, use GrowthLoop quite extensively for our marketing within our marketing teams. And again, Google's business is a big business. We're a very large enterprise. And when I spoke to our CMO team, the ability to scale, to do things, these campaigns and cross-channel journeys, etc., to be able to do marketing campaigns truly at scale on top of first-party data is a reason that Google chose GrowthLoop. So I'm really glad that we were a first customer zero, if you like, and then having used GrowthLoop within our marketing function, it just made sense to do this partnership.
And that's been one of the most inspiring things to see on my side from the product lens, is starting to see Google knows where this industry is headed from the data stack side, as well as knows marketing better than anybody else. So they see the two coming together into a composable architecture where you leverage the gold mine of the data cloud, but then you also make this easier for your business users. So that's been one of our most exciting projects to work on. And now other people can use what Google actually uses, which is exciting. All right, so quickly on getting started. So like Yasmeen said, there's two scenarios. Either you've been listening to this to the past 50 minutes and you're like, Chris, what do you mean by BigQuery? If that is the case, you still do not have a problem. We actually have a starter package we call Easy Button to ingest your data to BigQuery and allow you to use GrowthLoop for marketing across channels. So if you're looking to get an analytics stack and you don't have one today, this is the plan for you to get started. And then two is the case where, yes, I love BigQuery. I'm already leveraging it for machine learning. I use Looker. I use Power BI as a visualization tool on top of it. And I'm already leveraging the power of BigQuery. Well, then you want to just get started. And we can get you started in less than 1 week with starting to create your customer journeys, because you don't have to swap out any marketing technology. All we're doing is connecting to your BigQuery instance. And literally, your marketers get to start creating audiences and orchestrating them across destinations. Usually people are like, I don't understand. I'm used to marketing technology implementations that take 6 to 12 months. All I can say is that's what I'm used to too. So if you spend an hour with us, we'll show you how it works and how quickly it can go on BigQuery. Sometimes it takes seeing it to believe it. So in terms of next steps, we run Google Cloud for Growth workshops. So we wanted to make an offer to everybody on the call today. We've put together a first-party data growth workshop based on Gartner's first-party data framework. And what we do in the session is, it's an hour-long session. What we try to do is we take an inventory of what first-party data you actually have today, whether that's in BigQuery or it's sitting around on people's computers or an on-premise server. We take stock of what marketing channels you're using today: Marketo, Braze, Google ads, Facebook ads, TikTok ads. And then we start to identify, how do we accelerate your growth loop with the data cloud and Gen AI? So the goal is so you have an asset, or at least an opinion internally, because everybody's asking you, how are you going to use the data cloud and Gen AI to accelerate how we go to market? And so the asset you leave this workshop with is exactly that, something you can forward to your boss when they ask, hey, how are we thinking about using Gen AI? Well, here's a plan right out of the box. So you can actually use the QR code here, or you can go to go.growthloop.com/workshop. We'll also share this link in the chat here, and just schedule a session. That will actually take you to a Calendly link. and you can schedule any time that works for you. So we're going high tech, Go links and QR codes straight to a Calendly. So I just wanted to say, I'm going to wrap things up and allow for questions. But Yasmeen, I just wanted to thank you very much for the partnership overall with Google Cloud. I have a huge amount of respect for you as a product leader, and thank you for all the innovation you're doing on the generative AI side. And thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Chris. And again, can't emphasize how amazing the partnership has been so far. And also, Chris, I'd love to just tease that there's other cool generative AI things that we're working on together. So I'm looking forward to launching some new things together in the near future, next few months.
I am very much looking forward to that as well. So to be continued for everybody here. So if you have any questions for us, feel free to throw them in the chat. We will also, if you want the recording of this presentation, I know we oftentimes get asked for that quite a bit. It's BigQuery@growthloop.com. If you email us there, we will give you the video asset to share internally as well. So we'll hang on here for a couple minutes. And then if you have any questions, no. If not, we'll see you next time.
And while we're just looking for any questions there, I think the workshops have been phenomenal. I think we've seen a number of customers signing up to the workshops in the last few weeks. So I'd highly encourage, if you're interested to hear more, and you want a conversation about your landscape, your MarTech stack, how it could work, more than happy to have the team come and engage.
Yeah, and the beautiful thing there is you're going to get obviously the Data Cloud experience that Yasmeen's team can bring to the table, and then GrowthLoop as well. All right, so I got a question of what tools can you connect to BigQuery and GrowthLoop? So that's kind of the beauty of this system is if you think about destinations, you think typically we split them into categories. There's paid media. Google ads is obviously very important. DV360, YouTube ads. You have things like Trade Desk, TikTok ads, etc. as well. So that's one bucket. And the quick answer is you can use BigQuery plus GrowthLoop across all of them and start targeting audiences. The other major bucket is email marketing or marketing automation tools. So you'll hear Marketo, Braze, Salesforce Marketing Cloud, Iterable, Sailthrough, et cetera, Eloqua. That usually requires not only audiences, but what personalization do you want to send them? So if you want to say, hey, Yasmeen, thank you so much for coming to today's session on X date, you want to pass that data through as well with the audience. So you can actually leverage BigQuery plus GrowthLoop for all of those email and marketing automation platforms. So that usually covers push, SMS, as well as email. And then you get down to CRM systems. And this is probably one of the rarest things is I've heard folks starting to talk about extending the marketing automation stack to the revenue technology stack. And by that, they mean extending it to CRM and the sales team that actually gets leads, contacts, opportunities created and is making the phone calls to customers. And so we integrate directly with Salesforce as well as Dynamics. So when leads are actually getting warm, you can actually start to action those with your sales team as well. So it's a great way to do product-led growth. So the short answer is, email, paid media, SMS, push, as well as CRM. And we're starting to integrate with customer service systems as well. So I actually have one more website and mobile app for the personalization API. So the vision here is to go to any surface possible, but those are the surfaces that are possible today.
Yeah, and I'd emphasize with Google's Data Cloud, one of our core 3 pillars is being open. So our ecosystem today has more than 900 partners in the ecosystem. So the ability to integrate across all of the partners that Chris mentioned, plus others that might be upstream from the actual execution of the campaigns, there's lots of flexibility in the solution to plug in through APIs and other means connectors, your favorite tools.
Well, I was even going to mention Analytics Hub there, Yasmeen, as an upstream. Like a lot of our customers will have first-party data, but they'll want to leverage other data sets as well quickly. And Analytics Hub has come up quite a bit.
Yeah, that's a great shout out on our data marketplace, essentially in Google Cloud. And that the data marketplace is really popular with marketing functions because there are so many other third-party data sets today that can be used to enrich your customer profiles, to add additional color, things like data sets from like Equifax or credit unions that help give you more insight on your customers. So those are some of, we see data enrichment as a key use case where customers do leverage the data marketplace to tap into third-party data sets.
I'm also loving this CNN live stream ticker we have now with the destinations. That is an excellent little ad there from the team. And then I just have one more question before we wrap up. Is how long does it take to set up? It seems like usually MarTech takes it says how it must take a long time. Okay, so there I would go back to one, we have the two solutions. You have the easy button or starter package if you're not on the analytics cloud. And the beauty of that is you can still get started in a matter of 2 to 3 weeks, because all we're doing is we're actually ingesting your data to BigQuery. It's automatically modeled without human intervention. You can start generating your first audiences. So even when you're starting from zero, we're talking 2 to 3 weeks to get you up and running on the analytics stack on BigQuery plus GrowthLoop. Now, for folks with data in GrowthLoop, I wish you had a timer and you'd give us 30 minutes and we'll have your first audience out the door to Google Ads. So we're literally talking, instead of months, which that's what I'm used to. I've done a lot of MarTech, marketing automation implementations, and lost months of my life to that lovely work project. Instead, this is literally get us the service account to your BigQuery, and we're going to start creating audiences together on the same day. So with that,
sounds like a good challenge, Chris, huh?
Yeah, actually, it's so funny. We used to play music, a song for like 5 minutes. So the longest song we could find, it was like Led Zeppelin, Stairway to Heaven. And can we launch your first audience before the end of Stairway to Heaven? So if anybody wants to engage in that competition, happy to give it a shot. So with that, I think that's all the questions we have. Yasmeen, thank you again so much for taking the time today. And we're very excited for the future of the partnership. And thank you everyone for joining us.
Thanks, Chris.